I was lucky. I coached Sam Querrey for a few years when he was younger with this mental emotional side. But a big blunder that parents don't get is neglecting the rehearsal of changeover rituals and between point rituals. And I'm not talking about the external ritual of towel off and look at your strings. I'm talking about the internal rituals of how to get over the last point, how to spot tendencies and plan the next point's pattern, and then how to do maybe relaxation rituals. I'm talking about between points, don't just get a drink of water, but think 2 games back and 2 games forward. Did I break the guy last time he served? Why or why not? Did I hold my own serve? And then you get a drink, towel off, and before you get up, you review. Okay, let's review. Did I break the guy? No, I didn't. I hit 2 returns in the net. So now I have to stand 3 feet farther back and possibly arc the return, a different position of return. Professionals think about a handful of thoughts hundreds of times in a match. And juniors think about 100 different thoughts in a single match. The next meaningful blunder, the dreaded number 16 here, is ignoring the development of their secondary game plans. If your player's A plan is better than the opponent's A plan, you just simply stick to your A plan. But if your A plan is not good enough, you might need to adjust. You might need to have a B or C plan. I'm going to go through a little bit of a real life situation, and my wife is here. She hates this story, so I'm going to say it fast. When my daughter Sarah was playing the U.S. Open, she played Barbara Retner, and this is a few years back now, about 4 or 5 years. Barbara came out as a hard-hitting baseliner, and Sarah won the first set 6-4. And we thought, this is kind of cool. Sarah could win a match at the Open. And she was, I think she was 14 or 15. Barbara came up off the changeover in the second set and started going to the net every point. So all court net rushing, get in, get in. Sarah went up 4-1. Now at 4-1, Barbara got up. This was in front of about 2,000 people at the U.S. Open, and started moonballing everything, as high as the lights at the U.S. Open. By the first or second game of that, Sarah, I can still see her face today. It's like my nightmare. She goes, God, I hate pushers. And she said it loud enough, and Barbara goes, what? So guess what Barbara did all the way to a $15,000 victory? $15,800 if you want to know. But the cool thing is class. Barbara had an A plan. It didn't work. She went to a B plan. Didn't work. She didn't freak out. She went to a C plan. Worked. So from the other side of the coin, remember we mentioned if your players don't like playing against a certain style, like a moonball pusher, have them practice against moonball pushers. Hitting against hard-hitting baseliners isn't going to help them beat moonball pushers. So that's part of this development of their different game plans. Overlooking the pain principle. If your child views changing a flaw as more painful than losing, they will continue with the same losing path. Great things begin to happen when the pain of losing becomes more powerful than the pain of change. So, since almost everybody raised their hand with pushers, we'll stick to that little theme. Often we see this, the players lose, it's their reoccurring nightmare. They cannot beat moonball pushers. They come home, they sweep it under the rug, they don't want to deal with it, they go back on the practice court, and they have the coach feeding balls right to their waist level strike zone, and they crush every ball hard, and they go, man, see, I'm going to be on the tour. And then, honestly, very next tournament, they play another pusher retriever that hits slow and slower, and they hit higher than their primary strike zone. Now they're having to hit head level strike zones, which they never practice, and they go down in flames again. So this is the meaningful. You have to really talk to the parents about we need to spend time working on the actual reoccurring nightmare and the solutions to it. All right, coming down to the wire, being oblivious to periodization. When to train different components, as knowing when to train And try unfamiliar things, the key factor in periodization training. So we don't want you to ask juniors to begin an off-court training regime the day before, 2 days before. Running 5 miles the day before is only going to definitely guarantee that your player is incredibly sore during the match. Don't ask them to bulk up in the gym the day before. Ask the parents not to have them wear a brand new uncomfortable outfit the day of the match. They should wear it a week or two before big tournaments. Again, don't try to reroute a flawed stroke. We had a player, Jimmy, last summer, that the parents were really, really believing they were doing something great. They took Jimmy to the small St. Louis clay court tournament before the big Super National in Florida. And they got to the big tournament in St. Louis, and they took some lessons with the local pro, and the local pro changed his serve grip the day before the national. And so they were flying home the next day. And he did, and same, he lost first in the Super National as well. Probably bad periodization training. So it's not just knowing what to train, but when to train issues. And parents need to know this. Don't have players demoing new rackets right before the event, changing grips, trying new strings. Or here's one of my personal favorites, because I did this myself. The all-you-can-eat Indian buffet before the match. Don't do it. It's painful. 19 is applying flexible skills training versus consistent skills training. So this is the last two, so then we're on, is it a tea break after this, I think? This is my first ever tea break in my life. This is going to be good. Try not to train only consistent skills. For us as coaches, and again with gently educating the parent, consistent skills training is, for example, I'll give you an example. Giving the player 100 forehands, 100 backhands, and then 50 serves, and then saying, great job, well done, bye. That's consistent skills training. Instead of doing that, have your player hit a second serve out wide to the ad side backhand, and then you cream 2 balls to their ground strokes where they have to run a pattern and hit to the other side. Now, in that same hour, they're still hitting 100 forehands, 100 backhands, 100 serves, but playing in practice in the manner that you're expected to perform, right? Because you're not going to ever hit 50 forehands cross court in a row in a match. You're going to hit a second serve. You're going to hit a ground stroke to the other side. You're going to run systems and patterns. So practice in the manner you're expected to perform. And sports like gymnastics and figure skating, they really don't create like we do in tennis. We're creative. They only recreate the exact program. They're only recreating it exactly. And consistent skills training is meaningful for that. But tennis is all about flexible skills. So you don't want to ask your students, in my opinion, you don't want to say, once they're at a pretty solid level, you want to get off this little train of saying, okay, here's a forehand approach shot, forehand volley, backhand volley, overhead. That's consistent skills training. You're telling them what's coming. Instead saying, capture the net with 4 balls, and I'm going to feed random. That's more like a match. That's getting your players to send motor programs faster to their muscle groups. Last one, number 20, encouraging one-set wonders. Often we have players, even top nationally ranked players, they go out to play sets, they chat for 20 minutes, hit a little bit, they rally, they play one set and go home. So that's absolutely encouraging one-set wonders. Then they wonder why they don't win in the third set. If you don't have time, if your players don't have time, or if you're in an indoor facility where you have to deal with the clock a little bit more than we would in California, have players start at 2-all, 3-all. In the same amount of time, they can close out 3 sets. The skills needed to close out sets, if you start at 2-all or 3-all, they can close out 3 sets instead of 1. Okay, so if anybody wants more information, on my website, mentalemotionaltennisworkshops.com, up there on the screen, there's a bunch of chapters in the upcoming Tennis Parent Bible that's coming out. It's a book coming out, international. And there's years of free instructional articles And you're more than welcome to just log on and use whatever you need to use.